Okay. Hi, this is Susan Sharpe with Exit Realty Anchor South in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I serve the Panhandle from Pensacola to Panama City Beach, and I am visiting with my friend Andy, who is with Okay, Andy, you're going to have to say your name for me.
Galli
Galliano,
Yeah, you did it.
Galliano Mortgage in
Yeah,
Birmingham. And today we're talking about considerations for first-time home buyers. So, do you get a lot of first-time home buyers, Andy?
we do. And it's really one of those things where a lot of it's market dependent, obviously. But I would say right now, probably 75% of our business is first-time buyers.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, and I love working with first-time buyers. I think almost everyone in real estate and almost everyone in mortgage would say they love working with first-time
Yeah,
buyers.
yeah.
You know, I think that if you're an educator at heart and you
Mhm.
truly love to help people, to help others, and you love to educate them about something that you love to do, which for me is
Right,
mortgage, for you is real estate,
right.
and really for you and me, it's both of those things. I love real estate and you
Yeah,
love mortgages as well.
yeah, yeah.
But I think that, you know, it's just almost impossible to say you don't love to work with first time buyers,
Right,
you know.
right. I mean, it's something that it's a goal that most people have at some point in their life to own a home, and when it's their first home, I mean, it's just extra special. So being able to get someone in that position, it's very I mean, it just gives you a good feeling.
It
It's
does.
just heartwarming to get them there. So, some of the things that someone who is buying a home for the first time, really, they're not aware of a lot of the things that go on behind the scenes and things that they can do ahead of time to prepare themselves for their first time buying a home. And, quite often, even subsequent times buying a home, since this isn't something that people do every day. Some of my second and third time home buyers, they're not familiar with the process and need to be reminded of the same items that the first time home buyers have to think about. So it's
Yeah.
it's not for me and you, it's second nature. We speak the lingo, we know the process, but anybody who's buying a home first, second, third time, it could be a challenge just because they're not aware of everything that they need to be aware of. So
Yes. Yeah, that is so true. And that I think is important for a real estate agent and also for a mortgage loan officer to not take for granted that
mhm,
just because this is someone's third home purchase or fifth
right,
home purchase, that they know what's going on, because you know it as well as I do, Susan, this process changes a great deal
daily.
from time to time. And
Mhm,
and we're about to see, I hate to say it's a big change because I don't think a
right.
whole lot's going to change
No,
in essence, but there's a lot of buzz about a change, and that being the buyer
right,
commission structure and that kind of thing. And so
right,
this is something, it is an industry that is constantly evolving and changing,
right.
and it's up to us to remember that and to not treat
Mhm,
someone, even though they may be a fifth time buyer or a fifth time seller, like they
mhm.
know what to expect all the way through.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Well, some of the things that I'd like to highlight for someone at whatever stage they are is, one of the couple of things that are really the most important are your financial readiness. If you're at a point where your credit score, you need to work on your credit score. That's, have your down payment ready. Just, are you in a good financial position to where you can get through the process of searching for and closing on a home? And are you in a position where you can maintain that home throughout your ownership? So, you have to have some financial stability. You have to know about how much you can afford to spend on a home. And we'll talk about the whole financing aspect of it in another episode. But, just having that mindset and having had those conversations with people, resources like a real estate agent or a mortgage lender to just determine whether you are in a position to be financially ready to own the home or not. There's a lot of focus on credit score. That's a whole nother conversation as well. But your credit score really does play a crucial role in getting a mortgage and the type of mortgage that you can get. So taking care of your credit score for 2, 3 years prior to even thinking about buying a home is really important. Making sure that you're not making decisions that are going to affect your ability in the long run. So, that financial readiness is a big part of buying a home. And really, that's probably the biggest hurdle I see for most of my first-time home buyers is they're just not aware of everything that they need to consider from a financial standpoint when it comes to
Yeah.
buying a home.
Yeah. I see that a good bit as well. And I know you see the same thing that I see because we're in the industry together, but it's interesting and it's just difference in personalities, but how
Mhm.
some first time buyers will say, hey, eh, you know, when, as you and I are recording this, it's the end of April 2024, getting close
Mhm.
to it. But some buyers might come to us now and say, hey, I'd love to meet with you and talk to you because I'm thinking about buying a home in the fall,
Right.
6 months or so from now. And
Mhm.
then we may have the very next conversation we have may be with someone who comes to us and says, hey, I want to buy a home. My lease is up in May and I want to get the process
Right.
started, And so I would just say to anyone who's watching this that whether they're first time or eighth time home buyer, it's never too early to call and just have a casual conversation with Susan or have a casual conversation with
Right.
me and just talk about, hey, what's going on in the industry right now?
Yeah.
What can I do to prepare mentally for this market,
Mhm.
the real estate market that we're in, which is drastically different,
Yes.
whether someone wants to buy an investment property or someone wants to buy
Mhm.
their first home or someone's buying a second home at the coast or
Right.
wherever it is that they're buying, those markets are drastically different.
Definitely.
So to get an understanding of what it is with those markets right now is very important.
Right.
And the same thing on the mortgage side, just to, what can I do to prepare myself? Because
Mhm.
you know as well as I do that right now, we're in a rising interest rate environment. As much as I
Right.
don't want to say that out loud, we can't
Yeah.
deny the truth.
Right. Exactly. Doesn't help.
It doesn't help. It also doesn't mean it's going to be that way forever. But
Yeah.
there's a certain mindset that I think buyers have to become comfortable with in
Mhm.
knowing that, hey, my interest rate's going to be 7.25 or
Right.
7.5%. I'm not going to get that 4%,
Mhm.
3%, 5% rate right now.
Mhm.
But look at some real world numbers and just get
Right.
comfortable with it. And so it's
Exactly.
never too early to start. I know Susan doesn't charge anything to have those
Nope.
consultations. We
Not
don't
at
charge
all.
anything for those either. So,
No, and I even have the capacity through my website to send out market reports just if someone is considering purchasing in an area, but they don't know when, they don't know how, but I can send them on a monthly basis a market report that just shows, what the inventory is in the area they're considering, what the price point is in the area, what are the days on market so that they're a little bit more familiar with that market, if and when they're ready to buy, which really kind of
yeah,
brings me to the next item which is location. Um, Narrowing down your location and talking to a real estate agent. If you know the general area, there's certain amenities, there's, proximity to work, there's the different schools that, you're going to want to do a little bit of research on prior to deciding where you want to live. And the market research is nice, knowing the numbers, knowing the days on market, knowing how much homes are selling for. But above and beyond that is how close is your grocery store? How close
right.
is your daycare if that's what you need? How far are you going to drive to work and what does that traffic look like? So all of those things can impact your quality of life as well as your property value. So location is something that's been said in real estate for many years, but it's not all about where the home is for the real estate agent. It's where the home is for the person who's going to live there and how convenient that can make their lifestyle or not.
Yeah, that is so true. And, something that I've had buyers do over my history being in the mortgage industry, they will go to the home that they're considering buying at 7 a.m. and
Yeah,
making that drive from there to their office to see what traffic really and truly is like.
yeah.
I even had a buyer, and I'd been in the mortgage industry for maybe 2 to 3 years at this point in time, but I had a
Mhm,
buyer who really fell in love with the home, was questionable about the neighborhood and the safety of the neighborhood.
mhm, mhm.
And he went and I don't recommend doing this, but he
Yeah.
spent the night in his car
Oh my gosh.
in that neighborhood just
Okay.
so he could get a feel of what it was
Yeah,
like around there. And so,
yeah.
again, there's today's day and age, it's not like it was 30 plus years ago. You can get
Right.
all kind of statistics online to research how safe a neighborhood is.
Absolutely.
So don't put yourself in harm's way trying to determine if a neighborhood is safe.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
those kind of things are important.
They really are. And I don't mind. I'll show people houses if they want to look at houses, but my preference is, particularly for those who have a list of 15 houses, is that they drive by those locations. Let's not set up an appointment and get a seller excited about the possibility of selling their home when we drive past the house and you're not happy with the location. I
Yeah.
would prefer that you do that first, so then I'm not having to call and tell that seller, I'm sorry, we're not even going to look at your home. My time is valuable, your time is valuable, the buyer's time is valuable. Let's make sure that we're using that time wisely and that you have the opportunity to view the location prior to scheduling a showing. It might not even be something you want to see when it comes right down to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. And, you know, I'll say this, photographers are fantastic
Mhm.
and they can take a property and make it look so
Yeah.
much better on the pictures online than it is
Yes.
in real life. And a lot of that is if you drive by that home, if you look at it online and you love it, and you drive by that home and you say, this house looks nothing like
Yeah.
on the outside what the pictures look like,
Yeah.
then there's a pretty safe bet the inside may not look like
Right.
what the pictures,
Right. I mean,
in real life, it may not look like that.
realtors are trying to sell houses.
Hmm.
And part of that is salesmanship. But one of the things that I've had frequently commented when I've shown houses or when I've gone in and done videos for my out of town buyers, it's like, man, I'm glad you did that. They don't always show you those things on Zillow or the pictures that the agents put on the MLS, which makes sense. You're trying to sell a house, but by the same token, that's why an individual needs their own agent as a buyer to go in and do that research and that just scoping out the property ahead of time. Sorry about that. I should have silenced that, but oh well. But at any rate, that's just something that needs to be considered.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Sorry, that kind of threw me off a minute. But
No.
what ties with the location is the resale value of the home. So, there's very few people that I'm working with today that are considering anything their forever home. There are those, that are at a certain point in their life. I did actually speak to a gentleman yesterday who is retiring from the military, moving down here, and he's looking for land because they want to have it be their forever home. God bless them. I hope that it is, but 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be. So, in looking at that location and looking at the amenities around it, taking into consideration whether it's a rising area or a declining area is very important as well. You can fall in love with a home, but when you turn around and try to sell that home, some of the things that you didn't notice about the area or about the home because you were just so in love with it for whatever reason may come back to be a challenge for you in the future. And I remember when my husband and I bought our first home, we drove around this gorgeous neighborhood and saw what we thought was the smallest house in the neighborhood. It was for sale, and we looked at it and it's like, we got to be able to afford this. It's the smallest house in the neighborhood. We knew it was a rising neighborhood, so we were willing to buy the least expensive, maybe not the prettiest house in the neighborhood because we knew we could affect that, but it was
Sure.
a rising neighborhood. I mean, we got in there, it was 2,800 square feet with 5 bedrooms, which surprised us to death. But still, I mean, that's just so important in this day and age, is to make sure you keep in mind what your plans are for the future and
Yeah.
how the home is going to appreciate or be a good long-term investment or even a short-term investment, depending on your situation.
Yeah. That is so true. And we as consumers look at a home like, okay, will this suit my needs, my immediate needs? If we're going to have, maybe we have two kids now, and we're
Right.
going to have another kid, will it suit those needs? I have family who's out of town. Do they have a place to stay with
Oh,
us? And we look at those kind of things. But what ends up happening is whatever house we end up buying, when we start raising kids in it and
mhm.
start creating those memories in it, then it becomes more than just an investment in our
Right,
minds, but it is still an investment. And
right.
so it's something that we need to constantly be evaluating and looking at.
Yeah,
We look at our 401k statement, or hopefully we do every time it
yeah,
comes in the mail, because we want to know, how's that investment performing?
exactly.
And, we need to look at our homes the same way. Yes,
Mhm.
we will never take away the fact that those little pencil marks on the door frame where,
Yeah,
at age
yeah,
3, at age 4, at age 5 of the kids, that can never be, those memories can never be taken from you.
right.
But still, if a neighborhood starts to decline,
Mhm.
or, maybe you see the houses in your neighborhood being the roof taken off and added on to the top, whatever that
Right,
situation might be, it's good to know what's going on. And that's
yeah.
why, having a good professional realtor like Susan, who you can just call and have a conversation with and say, hey, I'm starting to see this down the street in my neighborhood, is,
Mhm.
what's going on? Why is this happening? And
Exactly.
talk about those kind of things. It's important.
Right. And of course, I have to be careful. There are fair housing considerations,
So
and
true.
I certainly would never violate any of that. But I would certainly want to also protect the investment or future investment for one of my clients. Um, and generally, I have been asked multiple times, would you let your daughter buy a home here, or whatever? And I tell them they need to do the research and find out what they're comfortable with on their behalf. But maybe not when it comes to one of my daughter particularly, or my son, or anyone. So
Yeah.
there's things that you can research and find out on your own. There's things that I can and cannot share with you, but certainly all of those things kind of play a role in how well your home's going to do in the future.
So
Um,
true.
and part of that is, one of the things that needs to be considered, because we're finally getting around to talking about the house instead of, the market and the financing and all of that. I mean, what type of home are you even interested in? Some buyers, they don't know what their options are for housing and with the different types of mortgages. And, we've in this area and in most areas, you've got your single family homes, you've got a duplex, you've got a townhome, you've got a condo, and all of those things are available for you to purchase and use as your primary residence. So, again, thinking about what your lifestyle is, do you have dogs that need a backyard? Well, maybe a condo is not a good idea for you. Some townhomes don't allow you to fence in the backyard. So maybe that's if you've got a dog again, or you have small children that you want to allow to play outside in a fenced in yard, maybe those aren't the best type of home for you as well. So again, and I am a realtor, so I'm going to say, talk to a realtor. Let them know what your concerns are, what your specific needs are for you and your family before you get too sold on a type of home. In addition to that, condos and townhomes, they'll typically have an association fee. Some single family homes do, but definitely a townhome or a condo would most likely have an association fee. And is that something that you're prepared for and want to participate in? I get some buyers that will say, no HOA, I don't want anything to do with an HOA. I've had a bad experience with an HOA. And then there's others that'll say, I want an HOA. I want to make sure that somebody is out there keeping an eye out on what's going on with the properties in this area to maintain my property values. And they don't mind that. But, different types of homes are going to have different considerations, different rules and regulations. and meet the needs of different types of people and family situations.
So true. So true. Yeah, there's just a million things to consider when buying, and really trying to, and I think it's important for buyers to have that list of really to prioritize what is most important to them in a home. And
Yeah,
then we haven't talked about this, but having that conversation with a mortgage person to say, how much can we afford according to guidelines?
right.
And that's a huge part of it, because we both seen it too many times where a buyer goes and says, I'm going to buy a home that's $400,000.
Yeah,
They go look at one, they love it, or maybe they just look online, they fall in love, but yet they
right.
can only qualify for 325, and they
Hmm.
get their heart broken. And,
Right.
so it's never, never, never too soon to have a conversation with a loan officer or a
Yes,
realtor and start making a plan for some point in the future
absolutely.
and executing that plan.
Right. And, along with your mortgage, there's also items that they need to take into consideration, and are the reason why there are criteria and guidelines for how much someone can actually finance, because there's going to be other expenses associated with home ownership that aren't related to your mortgage. Like maintenance of a home, repairs, utilities, and your property taxes are usually rolled into your mortgage payment, but not always. But there's going to be other expenses that come up just because you now own your home, and have to take care of it on your own. So there's good reason for those guidelines.
Yes, no doubt. And one thing that I would say, I get a lot of first-time buyers that come to me and say, well, I'm paying $1,500 a month in rent currently. I think I can afford, I would be comfortable with a payment up to 2,200 or 2,500 for a mortgage. And one thing that I recommend that they do, assuming they're not wanting to buy tomorrow, if they're planning ahead and they're 6 months, 9 months, 12 months ahead of when they really truly are going to be ready to buy, I will say, take that $1,500 a month that you're paying in rent, make that payment. Take the difference, whether it's
Right.
$200 or $500, wherever you think your ideal payment is. Let's say it's $2,000.
Mhm.
You think you can afford a $2,000 mortgage, take $500 out of your paycheck every single month, put it into a savings account, and do not touch it.
Yeah,
And
that's good
now,
advice.
now what you're doing is you are living with a $2,000 a month housing expense.
Right.
And so, and maybe you want to up that a little bit and say, well, I can
Right.
expect that I'm going to pay another 250, 300 a month for maintenance on my home.
Right.
That's not going to be every single month. You and I know that, Susan. But what ends up
Right.
happening is we end up with $1,000 project that we want to
Exactly.
do 3 months after we get into the house. So, put that $700 or $800 into savings and see how comfortable you are living without that $700 or $800 plus your $1,500 a month that you're paying
Yeah.
in rent.
That's a great recommendation. I think I'm going to incorporate that into any talks that I have about it for or with a first time home buyer. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, it's about educating yourself and being realistic with your expectations about what you can afford, what features you need in a home, and then some of the features that you want in a home, because it's unlikely that you'll find the perfect property. You're going to have to compromise on some things, but by educating yourself about the home buying process and seeking guidance from professionals such as you and I, you're going to be better prepared and hopefully make the best decision for you at this point in your life. So
Yeah.
that's the main thing, is just be prepared.
Yeah. So I would recommend anyone watching this that's interested in buying, whether you're a first time or third time buyer, do give Susan a call. Susan, how can they reach you?
I can be reached at 850-974-4890, or my email address is Susan Sharpe Realtor, and there's an E at the end of Sharpe, at gmail.com.
And if they want to contact me, I can be reached at 205 979-4412. I'm at extension 1, and we are licensed. My company is licensed in Florida and Alabama, and I'd be happy to help in either of those states. So
Awesome.
this has been great. I think
Yeah,
that's some wonderful information shared in this. I think, I think any buyer would benefit from watching this. So
that would be my hope.
yeah, awesome. Well, look forward to
Thanks,
seeing
Andy.
you next time, Susan, and
Yeah.
we'll pick this up next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Andy.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.